beautiful. Welcome in to Dr. Sarah's Café. This is your weekly refill where we take the time to savor the flavor of the week, which is a unique specialty blend of astrology, tarot, oracle cards, poetry, a little bit of creativity and imagination, and a whole lot of intuition. This week is a big week. I'm not gonna lie, there's a lot happening astrologically. We have the Scorpio New Moon coming out. And because this week is so jammed packed, I want to do a separate video just for the Scorpio New Moon. So by the time this is out, I'll have that recorded and ready for you to watch right after this, because there's so much happening astrologically that I don't want to make this video too long. And that is why the flavor of the week is rest and recovery. A lot of this came through when I pulled the tarot cards for the week, but when I looked at how packed the week was in terms of astrological transits and aspects and things moving into one sign or out of another sign, I realized that we might just need to be patient with ourselves. We might just need to slow down a little bit. We might need to focus on self-care. Deep need to take care of our mental health, our physical health. There could be a lot going on internally and a lot going on externally, okay? Things could be revealed. We might uncover new information. There could be a lot. Not for everyone, but for many of us, because there is so much happening this week, most people are likely to see something kick off or something significant or something meaningful, and it not is necessarily bad or negative. It could all be positive things, and yet it's still a lot. It could still be overwhelming if we don't pace ourselves, if we don't be patient and trust our process, do our self-care routines or rituals, and really be there for ourselves, show up for ourselves. Also, it is fall season, and we know, well, in the Northern Hemisphere. So especially if you're in the Northern Hemisphere, as the days are getting shorter, the weather's getting colder, right? It's okay to sort of go within. It's okay to slow down and really just start to reflect. And we are nearing the end of the calendar year. And so it's naturally becoming a more reflective season as well, okay? Let's look at these astro ingredients. It's really the astrology of the week that I want to give us an overview of and not get too much into the weeds, because I know a lot of people who watch my channel are beginners. So I want to warn you, you're going to see a lot on the slides. In fact, I had to do 2 slides. All month in October, I've been able to put all of the major astrology events on one slide. This week, I needed 2 slides, and both of those slides are full, okay? And so you'll see a lot on the slide, but I'm going to do my best to give you an overarching bird's eye view of what I think is really prescient, especially as it relates to the flavor. So early in the week, while we're still in October, right? So I kind of split the slides based on like the last few days of October and the first few days of November. So we end October with a lot of Mars and Mercury energy. And so this week, I would really say to focus on Cancer and Scorpio as zodiac energies in your birth chart, and to focus on the planets of Mars, Mercury, and Neptune, okay? If you have to focus, if you feel overwhelmed, there's so many planets and so many signs to look at. If you are looking at your birth chart, look at where the sign of Cancer is in your chart, and look at where the sign of Scorpio is in your chart, and focus on that as a place to start. And then the planets Mars, because Mars is in pre-shadow at this point, meaning it will retrograde back over these same points. So everything that's happening right now in this week, Mars is going to retrace its steps and come back over these days and these, themes. And because Mercury is currently in Scorpio, where we're having this new moon at the very beginning of November, I'm also paying attention to Mercury, right? And what I sense is that Mercury is starting to dig up some things in Scorpio in preparation for this new moon, right? And so on the 28th, we have Mars in the sign of Cancer, trining Neptune and Pisces. And so you notice that these are also water signs. So Mars, Neptune, and Mercury are all in water signs: Scorpio, Cancer, and Pisces. And so that's very emotional, very intuitive, very nurturing, very, well, depending on which one it is. So Scorpio is fixed water, Cancer is cardinal water, and Pisces is mutable water. And so what that means is Scorpio is like a placid lake, just a still lake. Scorpio might even be a frozen lake, frozen over, right? Fixed, stubborn, settled, like a frozen lake or a very placid, still lake. Cancer, I use the analogy of being a river. Cancer is more like a river. It it flows, it has forward momentum, right? But it has a direction, and that's that cardinal energy, right? It's going somewhere. Like let's get some movement going. In Pisces, as I mentioned in the Pisces eclipse video, I liken to the ocean. It's just all things and everything. It's all encompassing, okay? And so thinking about those as analogies for moods that we might go through in the week, or experiences, situations that we might have in our life. You know, I love speaking in analogies, and if it helps, you know, you wrap your head around the astrology, then I want to use it that much more. So Mars in Cancer, trining Neptune in Pisces. As I always mention, a trine is a positive aspect, but it also can just run away with itself. And so I'm wondering, I would just say be careful for yourself and people that you're around this week, that you don't get lost in the illusion that you have to fight for something, right? Because Mars is the planet of war and aggression and battles and like assertiveness, and Neptune is sort of illusion and fogginess and fantasy. Some people, their belief that they have to fight something could sort of not be grounded in reality. Okay. So you want to watch for that within yourself, and then just be on the lookout for that around and people around you as well. And then Venus is squaring Saturn in Pisces. So this is not one of the ones I mentioned as a real focal point, but I'm just noting that Venus is also active, and it's making a relationship to the planet of discipline, of karmic lessons, of longevity and stability. And so I think that's actually helpful if you want a healthy relationship, if you want sustainable wealth, right? Is for Venus to have some kind of relationship to Saturn. And then on the 30th, I'm watching out for the 30th because I feel like Mercury in Scorpio, opposite Uranus and Taurus, is going to give us some surprising information. We'll see. We'll see. As you all know, I'm a self-taught astrologer. And so I'm, having fun continuing to explore and see, what tracks, what doesn't, how things play out, right? But even professionally trained astrologers get the astrology wrong, or they have, an accurate prediction. So play along with me. Come back to this video after October 30th, and let's all report back after October 30th, or maybe we wait till the 31st, because depending on where you are in the planet, you might be a day ahead or a day behind. But let's see if Mercury in the sign of Scorpio, opposite Uranus and Taurus, brings about some sort of shock or surprise or news or information or some type of hidden, once secret information or knowledge. And again, we say that and people automatically go to the negative thing, but it could be a very positive surprise. It could be a very positive, welcomed secret that's revealed, right? Like a surprise party or a surprise, gift. You know what I mean? So be really curious to see what breakthrough might happen. That also could be an option, is that it could be a type of information or knowledge or communication that is a unlock for you, that unlocks something for you. You didn't expect it. And it's like you just overhear someone on the train, in the cafe, at work, say something, and that's the answer to a problem that you have been, stressing about for weeks. And it's like all of a sudden you have that breakthrough insight that's going to help you with something in your life. Could be a lot of things. So I'm going to try to remember to report back in the comments. And if you do as well, please let me know. And then on the 31st, October 31st, happy Halloween, folks. Happy Halloween. Yay. I love Halloween because I love the fallness of it, the autumnness of it. And of course, I love that it's a time where people get to indulge in like spiritual realm, right? Where it's less taboo to talk about the spirit world and the fact that we are spirits who happen to have bodies and that there are actually spirits all around us all the time. So on October 31st, on Halloween, I think it's actually really good energy for that because we have Mercury also still in Scorpio, trining Neptune and Pisces. Now I mentioned with the Mars trine to Neptune and Pisces that this could run away with itself in terms of fantasy and illusion. But on Halloween, this could make for some really great haunted houses, some really great Halloween costumes, some really great like Halloween songs and Halloween parties if you celebrate because of that fantasy, because of that illusion. And right, I'm thinking about Neptune and Pisces being like actual fog, like actual like smoke in mirrors. And so it could be just really great to indulge in like, oh yes, we're going to tell ghost stories and we're going to put on a fog machine or get some dry ice and put it in the front yard, right? So that could be really fun for people who find that kind of stuff fun. All right, and then we move into November. So as I mentioned, there's a lot here. November kicks off with significant energy. The first one being the Scorpio New Moon. And as I mentioned, because there is so much this week, I am just going to do a separate video for the Scorpio New Moon to really dive deep into that and unpack it. And I think I might be moving towards doing full moons and new moons videos in general on this channel. We'll see how it works out, right? I still consider my channel to be a new one. And so I'm always accepting feedback in the comments if you would like to share. But I will say that new moons are a time for planting seeds of intention, and Scorpio being a water sign and being a fixed water sign, it is about the depths of our emotions, right? And our emotional stability and emotional strength. And when I think of Scorpio energy, I think of emotional strength and emotional depth, right? And so it's going to depend on where Scorpio is in your birth chart, but this could be a new opportunity or a new start, a new journey of the transformation of your emotional well-being, your emotional power, your emotional life, right? Your emotional life. Scorpio rules in the birth chart what they say the area of our life that is death, transformation, sex, taxes, other people's resources. And so it's also about like the sharing and the exchange and doing that in a way that honors the dignity and the integrity of both people. And that's why Scorpio can sometimes relate to power plays. Like, so if you think about shared resources, it could be like financial abuse within a relationship. If it's the shadow, unhealed, toxic version or expression of Scorpio. But on the positive side, it could be, a healthy relationship dynamic where shared resources are shared equitably and it's used to support the growth and the strength of each individual as well as the relationship itself. I'll do a full video on that. And then on the 2nd, we have Mercury in Scorpio, right? And so I just find it fascinating that the Scorpio New Moon is being flanked or bookended by activations of Mercury in Scorpio. And so I just imagine Mercury doing a lot of like digging up, like a kid in a candy store, like, oh my gosh, I'm a planet who loves information and details and facts. And Scorpio is like a vault of details and informations and facts. Let me dig in there and see, what new insights or new details or new tea I can spill in Scorpio. But it's trining Mars and Cancer. And so making a positive aspect to Mars and Cancer is good because Mars is the traditional ruler of Scorpio. And then Mercury sextiles Pluto in Capricorn, which is the modern day ruler of Scorpio. You see why I'm thinking that this is big? This is like a lot of Scorpio energy because not only do you have planets in Scorpio, including a new moon in Scorpio and the sun in Scorpio, but you have the ruling planets of Scorpio, Mars and Pluto, being activated and making aspects as well. So yeah, I feel like this week is going to call for just a lot of centeredness, a lot of groundedness. We'll bring that back up again later. And just a lot of attention, awareness. Be attentive, be aware this week, okay? Journal, document things, listen to your heart, listen to your gut, listen to your intuition. Just be aware this week, because I feel like there's a larger story starting to unfold for a lot of people, for some part of the collective this week, where either the seeds are planted or some significant development starts to take place that we might uncover 6 months from now on the Scorpio full moon. Okay, we'll see. I'm excited. I'm curious. And my curiosity is one of the reasons why I'm so interested and geeked out about this stuff. Okay, so Mercury trining Mars in Cancer, and then sextiling Pluto in Capricorn, and then it moves into Sagittarius, right? So I feel like Mercury is on like a secret mission in Scorpio. That's what it feels like. It feels like Mercury is like secret investigator, private eye, private detective in Scorpio. And then it moves into Sagittarius, and it's like, hey, look at all this information I have. Let's weave it into a narrative. Let's use all the stuff, the content I was able to excavate and dig up and unearth in Scorpio, take it with me into Sagittarius and create a piece of art from it, or develop a framework or a philosophy, or, let's see what it all amounts to and create like a thesis statement based on it that guides us going forward. Because Sagittarius is the sign of the philosopher. It's one of the things Sagittarius energy is associated with. And then November 3rd, Mars is opposite Pluto. And this is what I find fascinating, because there's a little bit of this opposition on the Scorpio New Moon as well. But you have Mars and Pluto, both the ruling planets of Scorpio, right there next to this new moon, opposing each other. And I really don't know what it could mean. We gonna find out. And that's why I'm saying I'm going to do a separate video so that I can really dig in, really start to pull these threads, look more closely at each of the aspects happening on that day throughout this week, and then pull some oracle and tarot cards, look at the numerology even. Yeah, and really suss out something's going on with that Scorpio new moon. I haven't quite put my finger on it, but I can sniffing it out. And then that same day, Venus in Sagittarius is opposite Jupiter in Gemini. This is really great. Even though opposition can sometimes be tense, it's almost like romantic tension, because Venus and Jupiter are two planets usually associated with husbands and wives, or spouses and partners. And so even though they're not together in a conjunction or making a trine, this opposition feels like it could be romantic tension that you use it how you use it, right? Like the outcome of that tension is really ultimately up to the players in the scene and the players in that play. But I think because they're both benefic planets, it's easier to deal with an opposition between the two of them than maybe a Mars-Pluto opposition, right? Mars and Pluto are considered malefic planets, meaning they tend to be more challenging or uncomfortable. So because Venus and Jupiter are notorious for being giving and lovely in many ways and just lucky or blissful, then an opposition between the two of them could even be like, I don't want to say flirtations, but maybe that is kind of what I'm thinking. I was thinking like witty banter, where there's this competitiveness between the two of you, but it makes you more attracted to each other. It's like, oh, I want to beat you at chess, or I want to beat you, like love and basketball, right? I want to beat you at the basketball game, but I kind of fall in love with you too while we're playing basketball, or you know what I mean? So it could be something like that, something fun like that. And then Mars moves into Leo, but remember, Mars is going to go retrograde. And so it's going to, even though it's moving into Leo, it will move back into Cancer again in the coming months ahead. So keep an eye out for all of these things. I know that was a lot, y'all. We're already at 20 minutes. I apologize for the length of this video, but as you can see, there's so much there. Let's get into the tarot ingredients. And this is when I really knew the flavor would be rest and recovery, because we have the Three of Knives next to the Four of Knives. Now, for those of you who don't read tarot, the Three of Knives, I would say, is the heartbreak card. It could be past heartbreaks, present day heartbreaks, disappointments, losses of many sorts, of many varieties. And it also can represent the healing of those things. It could also represent the reflection on those things, especially with the Four of Swords. The Four of Swords is rest. Literally in the depiction here, you can see the young boy laying on his back, looking up at the sky. And so the 4 comes after the 3. So there's a progression here. And it's almost like this week, there is a progression from tension, conflict, heartbreak, wounding, going through the healing process, and getting to a place where you have enough distance from the incident itself to, one, rest, regulate the nervous system, get your heart rate back down to a healthy level, think about it, reflect on it, and see how far you've come. And also just recuperate, right? And sometimes the Four of Knives is prayer and meditation. Okay, so you might actively and intentionally engage in those activities this week as well as part of your rest and recovery. I think with these two cards being infused into this overall flavor of the week, there's a milestone or some type of development or movement in something that has been painful for us. Okay, so some area of your life you've been experiencing a lot of discomfort, a lot of pain, a lot of disillusionment, a lot of fear, a lot of heartbreak. And something about this week reveals some insight, some communication, some truth from within, from external individuals that we have to ponder on, we have to chew on it, we have to mull it over and process it and digest it, right? And say, okay, this is where I am now. I made it through that battle. I made it through that situation. And I'm going to give myself the space to heal. I'm going to give myself the time to heal. I'm going to give myself the grace and the patience to heal. And I'm going to do my emotional self-care, my physical self-care, my mental self-care. And I'm going to be ready for whatever's next, for whatever's starting anew. Okay. And then the tea leaves oracle message, what we have here is grounding by Sache, not by Sache, but Sache is the emblem, and then grounding is the theme. This is the African Goddess Rising deck by Abiola Abrams, grounding. And so I'm going to read this. And Sache is, to me, I resonate with the story, the history of Sache, because one of her other aliases is Sarah Bartman. She is in this deck part of the Temple of the Ancestors, right? So she's not a goddess in the way some of the other decks, other cards in this deck are. She's an actual person, an actual historical figure. So she's part of our ancestry. And she belongs to the element of bush, which again is very earthy, and it makes sense because the instruction here is grounding, okay? So Sache's guidance: protect your magic. Your heart is your own. Your body is your own. Your mind is yours. Your truth and story are your own. Be rooted in your truth. Create healthy boundaries. And the embodiment is: your energy is unsteady. Breathe, come into the present, say out loud, I am here. Trauma, stress, overwhelm, anxiety, and fear disconnect you from your body. Grounding keeps you present. When you feel rootless or unsettled, come back to your breath. Meditation and breath work are grounding. Try earthing, connecting your feet to soil. Free writing, clapping, stomping, and rubbing your hands together are all grounding. Goddess declaration: I am firmly planted and deeply rooted. I am firmly planted and deeply rooted. And then the Pastry Poetry, we have a Scorpio writer here, Maxine Hong Kingston, and I geek out about bringing writers and poets and thinkers and scholars to you that I studied when I was in high school and college and in my doctorate, master's programs, etc. So Maxine Hong Kingston is one of those names that I remember very well. And for me, I particularly like the celebration of women of color as writers and thinkers. So Maxine Hong Kingston being a Scorpio, I decided to feature her here. And the pastry, my dears, is cinnamon muffins. Yum. And they look like they're coming like fresh out the oven. Cinnamon muffins. So what's the poetry that we have for Maxine Hong Kingston this week? She says, I learned to make my mind large as the universe is large, so that there is room for paradoxes. So that there is room for paradoxes. And in this moment, I'm being brought back to the Mars opposite Pluto in the astrology. And maybe that is the paradox, right? That these two planets that both rule Scorpio, Mars also rules Aries, I'll say that. But Mars and Pluto are the traditional and modern rulers of Scorpio, and they are standing opposite each other. To me, that sounds like a paradox. That feels like the paradox energy that's here in Maxine Hong Kingston's poetry. And so we might be asked to stretch our minds, to stretch our emotional bandwidth to hold a paradox, to be able to exist in that dynamic tension of a paradox. I learned to make my mind large as the universe is large, so that there is room for paradoxes. Can you guess what our to-go or takeaway is for the week, my dears? I take time to rest and re-center. That's all you need. That's the only affirmation you need this week. If you are overwhelmed by all that astrology that we had earlier in this video, this is your takeaway. This is what you leave here with in your warm little coffee mug. Take the time to rest, to recenter, to stay grounded. And with that, my dears, I hope and pray that this has in some way helped you to refill your spiritual cup, and I'll see you in another video. Take care. If you liked this video, or if you like and enjoy any of my other YouTube videos, you might also enjoy joining the Brew Crew. The Brew Crew is a virtual monthly membership where we engage in group challenges called quests, where we develop a deeper, more intentional spiritual practice for ourselves and learn how to really leverage tools like tarot and astrology and oracle cards to support our spiritual journeys. I opened this to the public for the first time in September, and because we have Halloween this week, I wanted to reopen it again in celebration of this delightful holiday. You can learn more in the description box or visit drscafe.com/join. So go ahead and get your 30-day free sample of the Brew Crew flavor. Refill your cup, my dears, and fulfill your destiny.
You say you are lost and you're in need of some